Welcome to the Sports Entrepreneur Show powered by the Ninja Zone, the only podcast for sports entrepreneurs that gives you an inside look into what it takes to turn your passion for sports into a business. Hey, sports entrepreneurs. So this week's episode is part 2 of a 2-part podcast on trust. So if you haven't listened to part 1, you can go back and listen, or you can listen to this one. Actually, which one you listen to first doesn't matter. But trust is the most important resource we have that doesn't cost a thing. And we're going to break down trust so that it's tangible and usable, and we can learn, understand how to build it. And when we have it, it pushes it, it moves the needle on everything else. So let's go. Hey, sports entrepreneurs, Casey here, and excited to be back to continue this conversation about trust. After recording last week's episode and then doing a bit more research, my wheels just kept turning and really realizing how trust is truly this renewable resource that doesn't cost us anything but effort to build and continue to build, and is probably the most needle-moving action that the most needle-moving resource that we have. Because before we have trust, we can't act on anything. We can have strategies, tactics, tools, plans, information. We can have money. We can have all the tangible resources in the world. We can have the most talent, the most this, the most that. If people don't trust each other, it's not going to move, right? You see it. We see it in relationships and marriages all the time. Two really competent, capable people that don't, if there's not trust, the relationship doesn't move forward. So when I was doing this and preparing for the podcast, it really just kind of weighed heavy on my heart how important this is and how often we need to revisit this information, not just learn it to know it, but to revisit it often and have intentional actions that align with it. So in this second part of the 2-part series on trust, we are going to look at Brené Brown and her anatomy of trust, or what she calls the anatomy of trust. And again, just like Stephen Covey, she felt like it's such a big word, right? That means so much. And we can't get through it unless we break it down into tangible pieces that can help us move the needle of why we don't trust someone, or why we don't trust a team or an idea, or whatever it may be. Brené has come up with an acronym of the anatomy of trust, very similar to the way Stephen Covey broke down trust. She's done it in a different way, both versions, very impactful, lots of insight, and I hope you can take from either what makes the most sense for you. So Brené starts with a definition of trust that she felt. There's a lot of definitions of trust out there, but the definition of trust that she felt was the best comes from a man named Charles Feltman. And that definition is: trust is choosing to make something that is important to you vulnerable to the actions of someone else. Choosing to make something important to you vulnerable to the actions of someone else. Makes a whole lot of sense, right? So you can see why it's such a big word. This is something that means something to me, and I now have to make it vulnerable to you. And for a lot of strong-willed people, that's really tough. I will have to say that in entrepreneurship, part of the reason why we are entrepreneurs is because we probably lack a little trust of others, right? We want to handle it ourselves because we don't want to put the things that we care about and make them vulnerable to other people. So I think that that's a great definition. And she starts with that. And then she talks about the anatomy of trust and how important it is to take that big word and break it down into components. And I love the way that she's done this. So we're going to go through that. It's a quick acronym called BRAVING. And the reason why she uses BRAVING is because BRAVING stands for the courage to connect, right? You have to be brave to have the courage to connect with others and identify what's holding back progress in the relationship. I may have mentioned this before in a little bit of a side note, but it was a proud mommy moment for me. I took my son, we went on a family vacation to an amusement park, and Leo was scared to get on a roller coaster. And of course, I want him to go on the roller coaster with us. And I remember, being a kid and having my dad, whatever he wanted me to do that I was scared of, whether it be ski or get on a roller coaster. And he had his own way of handling it. And I was trying to come up with a different way to coerce my son into getting on the roller coaster. So the first thing I asked him was, are you scared? Instead of saying, don't be scared, or you'll be fine, or it's not scary, and basically lie to the child, because if he's scared, and to tell someone it's not scary, it's like, okay, they're not going to trust you. I'm scared. You're saying it's not scary. I'm not going to listen to you anymore, right? So I asked him, are you scared? And he says, yes. And I said, that's great. Because you know what? You can't be brave unless you're scared first. Being scared is the first step to being brave. And I, gave myself a big solo high five and felt really good about myself because the kid got on the roller coaster and then he felt brave and we all rode the roller coaster and everybody wins. So I love that she uses the acronym BRAVING because it shows courage. So let's get started. B. B is for boundaries. And this is her definition of boundaries. You respect my boundaries, and when you're not clear about what's okay and not okay, you ask. You're willing to say no. I love people with strong boundaries because then I know for me, I don't want to stomp on people. I don't want to steamroll people because I know that that's my blind spot, right? To be a bull in a china factory. All right, everybody, let's go. Let's do this. When people have clear boundaries to let me know what they're willing to do, what they're not willing to do, what their limitations are, when to say what, how they're feeling, man, it gives me such freedom to be who I am, know where I stand. I'm not walking on eggshells, and we can move forward, creating boundaries. When people don't have boundaries, that's the first way to lead to resentment. When you don't create boundaries, you end up resenting someone. And I'm sure it's all happened in our own life. Somebody's getting on your nerves about something, but when you ask yourself, have I explained why this certain thing is okay or not okay? Have I had that hard conversation? Well, if I haven't, then I haven't established a boundary. And I will say in my own life, I love my boundaries, and they're hard at first, but they're only hard for a little bit, and then people understand and it gets easier. My phone is a really good boundary that I have set. Like I've had people tell me, like, there's some days, Casey, where you will text me right back, and there's other days where I may have to wait 24 hours. And it's true. I used to text people back right away. And then I realized that I was being held hostage by my phone and random conversation that I couldn't give them the best of myself. It's the same scenario where you have a cell phone that's going off constantly if you have employees. You haven't created those boundaries that, like, don't call me unless it's a fire, right? Literally a fire. So boundaries. May we create them, love them, respect them, and uphold them with as many creative little, I've found that just if we have the messaging to protect them, that's kind of fun and nice and not mean, it makes it all go away. Like every now and then I will have a calendar issue where I have to change something. And I think I said to someone, I'm sorry, somebody pirated my calendar and there's no, I can't get it in this week, rather than saying, you're not a priority to me. I'm sorry, I have calendar pirates and arg, they took it over. How about next week? I'm giving away my secrets here. All right, so let's move on to R. R stands for reliability. Reliability means you do what you say you'll do. And then at work, It means staying aware of your competencies and limitations so that you don't overpromise and underdeliver, right? So it's not just doing what you'll say you'll do one time. It's doing what you say you'll do over and over and over and over and over and over. And that's how people know you're reliable. I can tell you right now that I have been an unreliable person in the past. And what I've had to do is I've had to create boundaries, clear my calendar, clear my priorities down, or clear my list down to things that I know that I can 1000% accomplish so that people are reliable to me. There have been times in my life where, I think that the worst times in my life, the biggest struggles I've ever been in personally is when I feel that I can't be reliable. And that gets me all crazy inside because I know that if I can't be reliable, then they can't trust me, right? And trust is huge. Trust is everything. Something that's really, really important to me is that people trust me. So doing what I say I'll do is really important. And if I can't own up to it, then I need to create those boundaries where I can. All right, so BRA is accountability. And Brené uses a little bit of a different definition of accountability, but I like it. In her definition is you own your own mistakes, you apologize, and you make amends. Okay, you own your own mistakes, you apologize, and you make amends. We have a family core values chart hanging in our bathroom, and it says, when you mess up, you fess up. If you know that someone holds themselves accountable, and you know that if they make a mistake, they'll own up to it, that builds trust. Anytime I can find that I made a mistake, even or just the responsibility. Say it's a three-part situation. There's 3 people involved, and I'm only 10% responsible, and they're 90% responsible. It doesn't matter. If there is any accountability, if you can take any accountability or any self-responsibility, you do it. Because what it does is it brings the conversation together. It puts the first foot forward and says, I screwed up, and it doesn't matter how much more fault came from wherever. If you're focused on the solution, taking the step forward and saying, I screwed up here. This is what I can improve on. Then the conversation can move, right? And trust can be built. That's accountability. The V stands for vault. And by the way, Brené came up with this. And if you do the research or read the book or have watched her YouTube videos, they research and they interview people. And this is how they come to these conclusions, right? This isn't just, they actually research and there's lots of data involved. And this was one that kind of surprised me. But now that I know what it is, I was like, I get it. I totally get it. And V is for vault. You don't share information or experiences that are not yours to share. I need to know that my confidences are kept and that you're not sharing with me any information about other people that should be confidential. So the vault is 2 parts. The first part is I'm sharing with you something that that should be kept confidential. Dave Ramsey has a definition of gossip that is any negative talk without a proposed solution. So not exactly the same thing, but kind of falls under this category. But the vault could be anything. It could be I'm, having a baby, or my mom has Alzheimer's. It really could be anything. It doesn't have to be something that's major. It's just usually the juicy stuff is what gets shared, right? So that's the other side of the vault. If you have someone that comes to you and is sharing experiences about other people that those other people haven't given them the okay to share, that's the other side of the vault. And that breaks down trust. And we all know who those people are. And it doesn't take a lot of time to realize, wow, if this person is sharing these other things with me, then what of my experiences are they sharing with others? I think of this as, I don't know if you think about high school drama or middle school drama, but it actually doesn't ever go away. And you see it in adults all the time. And it's something that I find really irritating to be around, those that are sharing experiences of other people that they haven't given them the okay to share. What they're actually trying to do, what those people are actually trying to do, and what Brené Brown says is that they're trying to hotwire connection, right? So if I give you this juicy detail, I'm gonna hotwire a connection. You're gonna be interested in what I have to say. But she calls it a counterfeit relationship, counterfeit trust. She calls it common enemy intimacy, which is just, I love the way that she explains it, because it happens all the time and it breaks down trust and it keeps progress from moving forward. All right, so that's the vault. I stands for integrity. And the way Brené breaks it down is in 3 parts. You choose courage over comfort, and you exhibit that, right? You choose what is right over what is fun, fast, or easy. And you choose to practice your values rather than simply professing them. That is integrity. That is simply stated, and stated so well, I don't think I need to add anything to it. Choose courage over comfort, what is right over what is fun, fast, or easy, and you choose to practice your values over simply professing them. Wonderful. The N stands for non-judgment. Non-judgment, in the way Brené defines it, is I can ask for what I need, and you can ask for what you need. We can talk about how we feel without judgment. That means if I'm struggling and need help, I can say I'm struggling and need help, and you can say that too, and we're there for each other, because we both agree that everyone on the planet has times of struggle and times of need. And being willing to ask for help is only going to, 1, make the relationship stronger, but 2, create trust, right? People that aren't willing to ask for help are also the people that think they know everything. And anybody who thinks they knows everything, they're not going to get very far, right? The more we know we need to know. And the last letter is G, and that stands for generosity. And the way she defines generosity is you extend the most generous interpretation possible to the intentions, words, and actions of others. That means if you screw up, make a mistake, drop the ball, forget something, that you don't beat somebody up for it. You don't assign some crazy intent. Well, you let them screw up. You let them screw up. You give them grace. I think generosity could also be exchanged with grace. Another way to put this is everyone gets an A. I think highly of you. I think highly of your intentions. I'm going to assume the best intention. And because I'm assuming the best intention and you have done the best you can do given what you have now, we can move forward. So guys, that is Braving Trust, The Anatomy of Trust by Brené Brown. So again, if you haven't listened to part 1 on Stephen Covey and how he breaks down trust into character and competence, it's a great episode. Go back. It just gives us a lot more to think about when we are dealing with people. And we all know that people are always everyone's biggest headache, right? If I just didn't have to deal with the people. Yeah, well, get over yourself. That's life. That's why we're here. So you might as well quit trying to go live under a rock, because even if you try, it doesn't work. We are meant to connect to each other, and the better we understand how to do that, the less stress and the less pain that we're going to have. And that's what these tools have given me. If I'm stuck or I feel like I have frustration, the more I can break down why I feel the way I feel and get rid of those yucky emotions by identifying it, right? Because if we can identify it, we can act upon it. And that's exactly what this does. So I hope you have enjoyed this episode. And again, not again, I don't think I've said it, but we are going to be doing a workshop of some sort. I keep saying workshop, webinar, course. I'm still not quite sure at this point because I haven't done it yet. And I'm not sure when this episode will be released. But 2020, improve the quality of your life. Growth in 2020. How can we ensure that 2020 is better than 2019, even if 2019 was your best year? So how can we create the vision for 2020 that makes it the best year yet? And I have a system to do that. I've used it. It works. And I want to share it with my friends. All right, guys. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Well, that's it for this week. Thanks for listening to The Sports Entrepreneur, powered by Ninja Zone. Read the show notes, download bonus content, sign up to get the latest updates and more by visiting thesportsentrepreneur.com. And we'd love it if you followed us on Facebook and rated us on iTunes. Do you have a topic or guest idea? Email us at podcast@theninjazone.com. See you next week for more insights, tactics, and tools